Hi, you're welcome to Encounter God to the Breaking of the Word with Reverend Father Clement, Ikong, Agama. And today we are looking at the murder of John the Baptist, or the death of John the Baptist. And our text is taken from Mark Gospel chapter 6, verses 14 to 29. We're talking about the death of a courageous man, the wilderness voice, the death of a bold man, the death of one who brought the voice of God to people. And when we don't have that kind of person, then the system will sink. The death of John the Baptist was, by their calculation, the death of the voice of the voiceless, the voice, the conscience of the nation. In verse 18 of Mark chapter 6, John the Baptist told Herod, "It is against God's law for you to marry your brother's wife." Herod and his wife decided to visit Philip in Rome. And while in Rome, Herod went into adulterous relationship with his brother's wife, Herodians. And both agreed to leave their spouses for each other. When John the Baptist was preaching to the crowd, one of the things he said was to mention the sinful affair between Herod and Herodian, and this did not go well with both of them. And they cast John the Baptist in prison. They wanted to shut him up. And it was within that context when Herod organized a feast on his birthday that Salome came to dance. And Herod made that promise. And eventually, John the Baptist was killed. The death of John the Baptist for them was the death of truth, boldness, courage. But let me tell you, the death of John the Baptist resurrected men of God, brought in men of God, courageous men of God, bold men of God with boldness to preach the word. We must imitate John the Baptist to call sin, sin, and by his name. We must be courageous, bold to preach, to cause sin, to address sin in one's life if we truly will love that person. We must be bold to cause sin and address sin in your wife's life, in your husband's life, in your children's life, in your friend's life, if actually we love them. And that was what John did. We must imitate John. We must be the conscience of the nation. We must prefer truth to falsehood. We must preach truth, live it out, and die for it. We must bring to men the voice of God. The voice of God is the conscience of the society, the conscience of men and women in our society. I pray that God will help us to do that. Do not be afraid of preaching the gospel. It's a challenge to men of God, a challenge to me. But I must imitate John the Baptist. If truly I love my country, if truly I love you, I must address sin and call it by its name. And not just to yourself. I must also listen to people who call my attention to the sins I've committed and beg for forgiveness. The death of John the Baptist would have been the death of truth, but that cannot be. Truth cannot be killed. May God help you to speak the truth. May God help you to bring the voice of God to many. Amen.